Welcome back, listeners. I'm so glad all of you have tuned in once again to the show. Today, I have an amazing guest. And first, I'd like to start with a question. Are you getting what you truly deserve? So the distance between who you are and the person that you want to be or what you want to do are really measured by what you're already doing to make that happen. So my guest here today is Dr. Ennette Morton. She's a speaker and an author. She focuses on women's leadership. She happens to be my mentor and a great friend of mine. She helps people really walk through talking themselves through self-imposed barriers. Sometimes those are external barriers as well, just to help them get to where they desire. So welcome, Ennette.
Hello, Jolene. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm super excited for this discussion.
Really excited to have you. So I'm going to start out just so that we have a little bit of background on you. Could you tell us about the work that you do?
Certainly, glad to. So women's leadership has always been a passion of mine. Since I was a little girl, watching my mom and my grandmother and my aunties and my teachers, I just loved watching them get people through what they needed to get through and how they led people naturally. So it was always an interest for me to study how do women become leaders and what's behind women's leadership. So that's what I do. I work with women. I prepare them to become the leaders that they are. Most of the time, women don't see themselves as leaders because they're just doing what they do naturally. And those are the best leaders because they're their authentic selves. So I work with them to prepare them for professional leadership roles in the political arena, in business, and if they just want to be a better community leader. How do you do that? What do you need to do? What are some of the barriers that's stopping you from being that authentic leader that you want to be and going for your passion? So that's what I focus on, and it's really a true joy, and I can talk about it for hours.
Yeah. So question then, let's talk a bit about the new book and the project, the Women's Leadership Project. You want to talk to the listeners about that?
Certainly. So the book that I am fortunate enough to be working on with you it's about leading and how women specifically are leading that charge for change in their community, in their everyday lives. We're not talking about people who are CEOs, although those are included, but women who are just doing what they do on a daily basis and making a big impact in their community. What inspires them? What motivates them? How do they get people to get going? And what's their passion that's driving them? What's their purpose? How do they find it? Just talking to women and hearing their stories, because stories are really powerful. And that's what this book is going to share and help get their stories out there and hopefully inspire others to do exactly what they're doing.
So what is your secret sauce then with inspiring other women into these, what's funny is we call this ordinary women doing extraordinary things. However, there's no such thing as an ordinary woman. No. We all do these crazy things and we just say, well, it's just what I do.
Yeah.
But what's your secret sauce with that?
I listen, and I'm always fascinated by stories. Like, how did you get here? What made you decide to do that? What did you have to go through? And just listening to some of the things that some of the women have gone through. Some women have had domestic abuse. Some have had financial hardships. Some have had everything given to them that they could ever want, but they still weren't happy because they didn't know what their purpose was. Or women who just truly enjoy seeing other people flourish. There's the gamut of reasons, but what I take from that is just watching them and listening and learning. I'm a lifelong learner. So this is just my way of using life as a lesson and to continue to make myself better and just enjoying the fascination of what other women are doing in their daily lives and how they're helping and impacting the world, really.
Yeah. And how do you see men's role in inspiring women leaders?
Like you've got to have a tribe, right? And men are the support system. They're the motivating factor. They're the driving force sometimes on that with their children. Men are a great ally. I mean, you can't get anywhere by yourself. And I see men and their stories intertwined with some of the women's success because they're helping. They're right beside the women doing the work or getting to the next level, helping network, helping inspire, helping motivate. Got to have that support system. So that's how I see fabulous men helping the fabulous, phenomenal women.
Yeah. So talking about getting what you deserve and identifying that gap between where you are now and where you want to be or who you want to be, what steps can the listeners apply that maybe the way you walk someone through, helping them talk that through themselves to figure out both where they are and where they want to be? How could the listeners take that and apply that?
Well, the biggest obstacles are always those that we build up in our minds, right? So walking through what are those obstacles and what are those barriers is where I typically start. So just, identifying what some of those common barriers are is a big step. There's the lack of focus. There's the fear of change. There's the not enough confidence or maybe even just having poor energy or lacking the motivation. So walking through each one of those discussions, having a chat about each one of those topics is typically where I like to start.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things, and some of the things that you can take away or starting that discussion is looking at what you believe or just talking about what's your focus, what's your purpose. And if you don't know what those are, then starting the conversation there.
Right. And I found in my work a lot with my purpose work that folks aren't quite sure where to begin with identifying their purpose. And I have them really take a deep look inside and say, all right, what is it that sets my heart on fire? And what is it that completely just ticks me off, right? Those are the things that either violate your core or set your core on fire. And so I say start with those things. And sometimes we can look to our memories and different really poignant moments in our life where something happened, whether it's positive or negative, that impacted us. I know one of those things for me becoming a doctor was watching you walk through the process and seeing that and being inspired by that, well, if she can do it and be raising a child and be working full time and be volunteering, why can't I? Just as busy, just as crazy a life. And so I think that it's very important to think of these pinnacle moments in our life. And why was that important? And why was it important for me to pursue a doctorate? Why was it important for you to pursue a doctorate? And then attaching really the bigger picture to these. It wasn't, having a diploma or anything. So with that, how do you believe people can a little more easily kind of step into their purpose and identify these pinnacle moments in their life that are very telling to their core?
Well, you really alluded to it. You mentioned it. It's just like starting to take a step back and reflect. Like, what do you enjoy doing? What gets you up out of bed in the morning and just ready to go? And you can forget to eat sometimes. And you just want to keep doing it regardless of how you physically feel. Reflect on that. What does that look like? And everybody's different. For me, I love to get up and talk to people and find out what makes them work. How do you get to do what you do? For some people, they like to paint. For some people, they like to walk or run. What is that really touches your spirit? And you really need to stop and reflect on that. And sometimes it's the thing that makes you really scared, and that's what you need to do. I always tell people, if you're really scared and you are absolutely fearing what you're about to do, that means the goal is big enough, and that's going to keep you motivated and keep you focused because it's touched your spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, I know that I'll ask my clients about their fairy godmother career or activity. So if I could pay you to do anything you wanted anywhere in the world, and money's no object, you don't have to worry about scheduling time off from your job. Just, I'm going to grant you this job anywhere in the world. It doesn't even have to exist. What would that be? And I've had people say things like, I'd be a National Geographic photographer overseas. And they're, say, a nurse. And I find it really fascinating because now is that really what they want? Do they really want to be a National Geographic photographer? 9 times out of 10, that's not it. But the adventure that they're seeking, because they have, say, a mundane job or job that they're just not getting that sense of fulfillment out of. So I think digging deeper, I think the reflection is a really great and practical way to kind of dig deeper into that initial thought. I would go save sea turtles in the Galapagos. Mm-hmm. So is it really saving sea turtles, or is it really a sense of doing something bigger to impact the nature, the ecology, right? So it's really digging in so that we understand deeper, because sometimes I think people trip up when we use the word purpose, that it's supposed to be this massive calling, and they get afraid of that. But I think what you're doing is very much on purpose, a purpose that you're led to, and inspiring other women and helping cultivate and curate them into leaders. I think that really is a wonderful passion, purpose, and really gives you some direction that, like you said, a reason to get up in the morning. Do you think that's pretty accurate? I know purpose can be a trippy word for people sometimes.
Yeah, that you're absolutely accurate. And one of my favorite roles in helping women is preparing women to run for office. A lot of times women don't even see themselves as political leaders or community leaders or leaders in that sense. Men, and it's not, saying it's bad, but they're like, yes, I can do it. Just point me in the direction. Women are like, well, I don't know if I have the experience, or I don't think I can do it. I need to know this or that. And I just stop them and I say, let's just take a look at what you're already doing. You're already doing this role. You're already that leader that you're saying you don't have the experience to do, the experience for. You're doing this already. And once they realize that, just seeing that spark ignite and them walking the path to that purpose, or what we call purpose, is just so gratifying. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. But just preparing them and just letting them see themselves from another perspective is oftentimes the biggest key to helping women become or find their purpose and their goal and what really sparks their energy.
Mm-hmm. And I think you really touched on something that spoke to me, and that is my friend Vicky has for many years now she's been battling lupus, and her son is autistic. He's now in college, and she fought such a battle over the years with dealing with her medical condition, and then also having her son properly diagnosed so that he could get the services that he needed. And she found these gaps. And so she started a group called Frog Moms at her church. And so these were folks with developmental disabilities and such, and they all got together and they were this wonderful support network. Well, Vicky called me maybe 6 months or so ago and said, "Hey, I've been asked to be on the board for this center that helps disabled children." And she was contemplating whether she should or not, or whether she was qualified or not. And I said, "Well, who better qualified than you?" And she said, "Well, why me?" I said, "Why not you?" So do you think that this is pretty typical, right? And I don't think it's just women, but women tend to do this to themselves quite a bit, where we dilute what we're already doing, like you said. And then we don't necessarily follow that path, but this was her desire, and thank goodness she did it, and she's thriving in that environment, and she took on that calling and took up the torch. I think that it's wonderful when people do. So do you think that barrier, that self-imposed barrier within our own heads, talking ourselves out of it, is more common than not? And how do we overcome that?
Yeah, it's very common. And women tend to be, they're nurturers. They're naturally nurturers, collaborators, like to bring people together, to make sure that everyone is taken care of. And that's part of the conversation. But in doing so, those are also qualities of a great leader. And just changing your perspective of that is the conversation that you need to start having with yourself. I like bringing people together. Well, that's why you need to be in this role, because they need someone who is going to collaborate and bring the different disparate groups together, or showing people how they have the same common interest and progressing things along. That's what makes you a great leader. So absolutely having that conversation in your head. And then just sometimes it's also getting the right people around you. If you don't have that support system who's there to help you and uplift you, it can be a barrier. And oftentimes women don't want to change because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or they feel like they need that person. But just having the right tribe determines the speed in which you can uplift yourself and go for what you really want to do. Looking at who's around you, your network, how you can change that, or really incorporate more of those people who motivate you, can be a big impact as well.
Yeah. And we use the word leader, but I think that also can be a limiting belief to ourselves when we define leader as someone that has more authority than we do. And stepping into that leadership role may not seem very natural. And so what would you suggest people do to really look at that word and the definition that they're providing to themselves a little bit differently, so that they can be empowered, male or female, to change, to make that charge for change. If there is a need for a soup kitchen in the community, if there is a need for whatever around us, we have the power. And how do we get past that? Well, who am I? How do we push past that?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to that thing of not me, then who? And that's simply it. If you see something, do something. And that's the empowering thing. And that's really what needs to happen. If you can, then you should. If you want to, then go for it. That's how you view, leadership in my view. If it's something that makes your heart happy, walking kids across the street every morning as a crossing guard, that's leadership. Leadership is empowering yourself to give yourself the grace and the space to do what you believe needs to be done.
That's beautiful. I mean, because I've walked into Walmart so many times, and there is that super happy old guy or woman, and they are just happy as heck greeting everyone. It seems like just a calling for them to be sitting there saying hi to everyone. And occasionally you get a grumpy one, but it really is a pretty wonderful thing when you see someone's heart light up when they're doing something that they love. And I'd have to agree with you that is leadership, because leadership to me is being that person to emulate. And so if that person is standing there smiling and welcoming people, regardless of whether they are greeting them back, being kind to them, being compassionate towards them, I think that truly is a leader. A leader just does, without really any regard for the outcome.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah. So yeah, getting out there and just experiencing, and again, giving yourself the grace and the space to be you, to be the authentic you, is part of that journey to being a leader, or being viewed as a leader.
Mm-hmm. And getting what you deserve, and believing that you deserve a better community, a better family life, a better education, a better job. And I think that really is by giving ourselves that grace and that space, and understanding what does set our heart on fire, rather than going into each day letting our life live us, and being able to choose to live our life and the life that we design. I think that is very important. And I think that I'm going to use that, the grace and space. Every time I'm tripping up on something, I will definitely use that grace and space and sit back and reflect. Am I truly being gracious with myself and giving myself permission to do what it is I'm afraid of or excited to do? And I think that's really helpful. What, kind of to wrap up, when you're helping folks really break through these barriers, what have you heard is the thing that really helps them the very most start moving forward, making that first step?
Making that first step is realizing it's going to be scary. You're gonna make some mistakes. And again, giving yourself the ability to make that okay. And really recognizing that you're not putting yourself into a model that someone else wants you to be. You're going to be your authentic self and do what you feel is right for you, not trying to live up to anyone else's expectation of what that definition is. So those are the first steps.
I love it. And I believe that everyone listening today is really just blessed to have you, to be able, I know I have just grown so much just knowing you and having you as a part of my life, and now working on the book with you. It's really wonderful when you do have someone in your life who does take you under their wing and shows you the way. And sometimes as leaders, we don't realize just how much we're doing that because it's just what we do. But I just want to say that I really appreciate you. I appreciate all the work that you do with women and men, and just keep on doing what you're doing. And it's your job to get out there and be you and be the change that you want to be in this world. And I know that from a political standpoint, you have really kind of stepped into that political arena and at least considered being a leader of that sort and such. And so I just want to thank you for being that leader and being that really inspiration to me as well.
Well, I thank you, and I appreciate you for helping me see that that's a role that I can do.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you, and everything you're doing is just inspirational to me as well. So
great.
Again, I love to see it.
I love it. Well, awesome. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I cannot wait for this episode to air and to hear back from everyone on just, what they took away from this and how they applied this in their life. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.